Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we are diving deep into the mind of the silent observer. We're going to completely reframe the way you think about the quietest people in the room. And trust me, it is probably not what you're expecting. Let's get right into it.
So, I want to start with this one question. What if silence, that space we're always so desperate to fill, isn't actually empty? What if it's totally packed with information, with observation, with, well, thought? It's a really simple idea, but you'll see it changes everything.
Okay, first things first, we have to talk about the stories we tell ourselves. We've all been in a meeting or a class or maybe a party, and we've made these snap judgments about the person who just isn't saying much. So let's get real about what those assumptions are. Come on, be honest with yourself for a second. You see that quiet person in the corner, and your brain, it just immediately starts filling in the blanks, doesn't it? It's something we almost all do, and it's built on a foundation of some very common and, as it turns out, very wrong ideas. And yep, here are the usual suspects. We see silence, and our minds just leap to conclusions, right? Oh, they must be shy, or bored, or maybe they're just intimidated. We figure they either have nothing to contribute, or just don't have the confidence to say it. These are the easy answers, but as we're about to find out, they are almost always wrong. All right, now for the really fun part. Let's start peeling back all those stereotypes and look at what's actually going on. The science of it all. This is where our entire understanding of silence is about to get flipped completely on its head. Seriously, just let that sink in for a second. This silence that we see isn't about some kind of deficit. It's not an empty tank. It's actually a sign of a very active and frankly very powerful cognitive process at work behind the scenes. And here it is. The key to this whole thing, cognitive inhibition. The best way to think about it is like your brain's own little CEO hitting the pause button on an instant gut reaction. It's this incredible ability to stop yourself from just blurting something out automatically, so you can actually process information and choose a much more thoughtful, intentional response. It's not a weakness at all. It's a finely tuned skill. And this is what I love, because it just lays it out so clearly. Our assumption is that we're seeing a lack of response. But the psychological reality? Silence is the response. It's a deliberate choice to observe and process instead of just reacting on impulse. So if they aren't just sitting there with a blank stare, what in the world is going on inside the mind of a silent observer? Let's actually break down the mental toolkit that they're using in real time. You see, they're not just hearing the words being said, they're operating on a whole different level. It's like a kind of hyper-awareness. They're reading people incredibly fast, noticing that tiny shift in tone that signals a change in mood, or even detecting the little hesitation that reveals a hidden intention. They are taking in all of the data. And here's how that active process works. First, they scan. They're absorbing all the social and environmental cues in the room. Next, they decode. They're figuring out what's really going on, the subtext, the body language. And only then, after all that analysis, do they process all that information to decide on the absolute best course of action, which may or may not be to speak. Okay, so we know what they're doing and how they're doing it, but why does any of this matter? Well, let's look at how this silent processing actually becomes a powerful strategic advantage. I mean, this chart really says it all, doesn't it? An automatic knee-jerk reaction might be fast, sure, but the quality is often pretty low. But the considered response, the one that comes after all that scanning, decoding, and processing, is consistently of a much higher quality. It's more insightful, more strategic, and ultimately way more effective. So here's the bottom line. Real power in a conversation, it doesn't come from being the loudest person in the room or the fastest to speak. It comes from observation, from understanding, and from contributing something that has genuine value. And that is the observer's edge. So now that we get the psychology behind it, how do we actually use this? This is really all about changing how we interact with the world and, with the people in it. I love this quote. It just perfectly sums up the whole idea here. When we run into silence, our first instinct shouldn't be to try and fill it with noise. It should be to listen to it, to recognize that a really deep level of observation is probably happening. If you remember just one thing from all of this, please make it this right here. The next time you're looking for the smartest or most insightful person in the room, don't just listen for who's talking the most. Look for who's watching the closest. And that brings us to the final thought. Now that you know this, the next time you're in a room, who are you going to pay attention to? The fast talker or the quiet observer, who might just hold the key to what's really going on? It's something to think about, right? Thanks so much for joining me.